Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? It is that time of the week again. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. This is Kyle 2K's Kaler in the flesh. I was telling everyone you were okay.
Yeah, no.
Everyone was worried. Like, where's 2K's? Where's 2K's?
I'm sure there's a lot of concerned fans out there. I haven't been on here since I kind of went off on Ryan Day in Ohio State.
Yeah.
And all the shit I said just kind of played out. That night I said all that shit about Ryan Day and how he coached like a complete asshole against Michigan, and he's the reason why they lost that game. But I also countered all that with, they are, to me, the best team in the nation. They are the most talented team. They have all these guys coming back on that defense. Number one defense, probably in college football. Notre Dame might have something to say about that also.
Yes.
But then, you see it in the Oregon game where Ohio State's offense just basically wins that game in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And Oregon's in a hole that they can't get out of. And, that's what I'm saying. When that argument, for all you Ohio State fucking D-bags out there, I said it. You guys were by far the best team in college football. You lost that game because Ryan Day fucking coached like an asshole and had no business playing in the game. They should have beat Michigan by fucking 40 and ended up losing that game. And, you go on and you win the national championship this year. Kudos to you. But you are still going to have that fucking L to deal with because of a game that your coach just pissed away.
Now, when this wasn't last week, it was the last one of the last episode of 2024 we did. I actually brought that video back of you getting, you just on TikTok you were getting roasted on that video,
and I don't understand why.
No.
What did I say that was wrong?
Especially in that clip, you were giving them nothing but praise, nothing but, hey, $20 million well spent. As an Ohio State fan, I'd have been like, man, this guy knows ball.
Yeah.
But no. And there was another one popped off yesterday. Last week I was reading a stat where Notre Dame they beat a ranked top 25 team in 6 straight months. I can't remember exactly the number of months, but that's basically what it boiled down to. And so many people were like, well, this fucking guy, these teams stink. Oh my God, what does this even mean? You're trying to say this is a stat? I'm like, well, if you look at it, Louisville ranked when they played him. A&M ranked when they played him. Both the service academies ranked when they played him. Penn State ranked when they played him. So it legitimately, Indiana ranked when they played him. So it doesn't, in my eyes, they took care of business when they played him. What happens after that is none of Notre Dame's concern. Yeah. And if this happened to be any other team, that's really none of the concern of the fans or how you should look at that game as to these teams are shit.
Yeah. And what I guess, so what I'm sick and tired of with this whole playoff thing is, look, do I agree with how the ranking of the seedings came out? No. Do I agree with how it all worked out? No, I fucking don't. But at the same time, who cares? You're still going to have to play against these teams in the playoff. No matter what, you're going to have to go through whoever. I don't care who has the easiest run, who doesn't, who has the the hardest run through there. And say whatever you want about Notre Dame. They fucking beat Georgia when everybody said that they weren't going to win that game. Then they fucking beat Penn State when there's a lot of people that were saying that Penn State's defense was going to beat them. And they look like shit in the first quarter. They really don't look that great in the second quarter. They go to a backup quarterback to close out the second quarter. Like, it ends up getting them down there and get points on the board. And then, in my opinion, you have, I think, the best college football coach this year, and Marcus Freeman makes the adjustments at halftime, and you see an entire different team in the second half of that game.
100%.
Like, what Marcus Freeman has done this season, I'm telling you, I'm a Michigan fan my whole life. I have done nothing my whole life but talk shit about Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman makes it really, really fucking hard for me to not like Notre Dame because I really like him, and I think that he is top-notch. And the scariest thing about it is he's 37, 38 years old.
Just turned 38.
I mean,
39.
if they can hold him down to where he doesn't take an NFL job here, which I don't think he will. I think he's a college guy.
Especially right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's a scary thing for people that are not Notre Dame fans. And for Notre Dame fan, you have to be like, hey, we got one of the best.
Walking around full chub, probably 90% of the time I am awake. And this is prior to us even getting into the game, into these games. But you mentioned scary 2Ks. The scary thing is they're going to be even better next year.
100%.
I mean, granted,
biggest thing.
you're losing Xavier Watts, you're losing Riley Leonard, Benjamin Morrison. Everyone's kind of saying he's gone, even though he got hurt earlier in the year. But you look at all of the talent that's there that has been forced into these positions because of injury, and they're still winning. They're still going forward. And CJ Carr is a dude. He's a dude. And I've said from probably week one that you can tout Marcus Freeman and his recruiting abilities all you want to. Quite possibly his best recruiting is keeping CJ Carr on campus.
Sure.
And he's all the way bought in. And you look at all of the young receivers that are coming in, it's going to be stupid. And then Love, people forget he's a freshman. He's a freshman. So I think there's one guy off the offensive line that is a senior. And then Riley Mills, the nose tackle, he's a senior. So we're not losing a whole lot of guys. But the ones that we are losing, we've seen, well, we haven't really seen CJ Carr yet, but he, and we'll kind of get into this when we get to the Notre Dame breakdown, but it will be hard to replace. It won't be hard to replace the talent of Riley Leonard. It will be hard to replace the leadership, the grit, the guts, the fuck you.
Yeah,
that's what's going to be hard.
In the big situations where he needs to use his feet, that's where it's like what's the backup kid's name that came in there?
Steve Angeli.
Do some things, throwing the football, which I thought was perfect for that situation, just because Notre Dame was they were not, really not able to get anything with the ground game going. And then he comes in and throws the ball and, takes them for 40, 45 yards and gets them down there so they can kick a field goal. Like, it was huge. That was a huge, huge drive. Maybe even a decider in that game for them to just be able to put something on the board.
Yes.
And as bad as that was, to go into halftime and say, hey, we're down one score now. And, this is a whole new ball game. So it was a big deal. My biggest thing with Marcus Freeman, though, is over the years, for how long was it Alabama, Georgia, basically the blue bloods of college football there. And I think that there was a feeling in locker rooms, like, before you even got on the field to play against them, I don't think that there was very many teams that really truly thought we can play with these guys or we can beat these guys. And Marcus Freeman has created a environment at Notre Dame within that locker room where they feel like they can go and play, and people can say on TV all they want, what their schedule is, who they've played against, who they've beat. That they can go back on the Northern Illinois loss and talk about all they want. But he has created an environment in that locker room where those guys all believe we can fucking play with this team.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see Ohio State's offense is really, really bad. The key to me is you gotta stop them from having the big first quarter. Can you stop them and go into halftime, where if you go into halftime and that game is a one possession game or you're tied or somewhere and that game's close, all right, now we're going to play football in the second half. The problem with Ohio State is they can ambush you right off the bat, and basically, if they get a 2-score lead, it's going to be very, very hard for Notre Dame to battle back out of that.
Save that thought there, 2Ks, because we got some news to get to before we get into the meat and potatoes of this show. Let's see here. News. There we go. Here we go. You ready for this news, 2Ks?
Yes.
I don't know. You haven't even seen these, so there's only 3 of them. So let's start off with kind of the not so newsiest news. Okay. This is a tweet from the New England Patriots. He's back. Patriots Hall of Fame Mike Vrabel returns to New England as our 16th head coach. Writing was on the wall. This was pretty much having to go through the other interviews that they have to do. Vrabel was why they didn't hire him last year. I don't know.
That was the mistake. And you feel bad. You feel bad in the situation with him only getting a year. And but I mean, the writing was on the wall after they have they have a bad season. There's too many coaching mistakes. I think there's a chance that he's back in the future. Maybe a head coach in the future, but I think he needs more experience before he gets there. No, Patriots fucking home run hire, though. I mean, this is you can't ask any better. And the situation, I mean, have a shit ton of cap space, have Drake May, have the 3rd pick in the draft, and now you're adding Vrabel as your head coach. Like, he's walking. This to me was possibly the best coaching position there is. This offseason.
Yeah, no, the fact that he's a Hall of Famer with the Patriots just kind of makes this, and I think you and I can agree that him getting fired by Tennessee was probably one of the dumber firings of last year.
Oh, I believe.
We could see that the chemistry wasn't there between him and the GM. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the talent, I mean,
yeah, and just the way that it all played out now. I mean, last year, so they get rid of Vrabel and they keep the GM, and then they go 1 year and they're shitty again this year, and now they get rid of that GM,
yeah,
but keep the head coach, and it's like, all right, what the fuck are you guys doing there in Tennessee? So,
following what the Bears are doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's Bear. We don't have enough time on this podcast to talk about the Bears. News article, piece of news number 2Ks. Let's go to this one. Do you remember this 2Ks when the douchebag Yankee fans were tugging on Mookie Betts's, and it seemed like us here on the podcast, as well as Baseball is Dead, we're about the only people that were kind of outraged by this because if these two morons break Mookie Betts' wrist, which is the same wrist that he missed time prior in the season to an injury to that wrist, this could be a whole different World Series.
Yeah.
So, but the New York Post sports reports, Yankee fans who mauled, I like how they change it to mauled now after this, mauled Mookie Betts at World Series, banned from all MLB stadiums indefinitely. This should have happened the day after.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This should have happened the day after.
I don't really give a fuck. You act like that. And that's the thing. Like, you do that in a regular season game, probably not even gonna, it probably makes the news and whatever, but it's not much made out of it. But if it happens in the World Series, come on. Like,
into one of the top 5 players in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if that was, for instance, Max Muncy in right field,
and like,
probably, but
you reach your hands out there and you fucking deflect it and whatever, like, whatever. You're gonna get kicked out of that game, but you can still go back. But when you're reaching into the glove, holding onto his arm, and like it went way too far. Like, yeah, you two jackasses,
fucking jabrones. But the third piece of news here is 2Ks I found rather interesting, and I had to actually take a look back and be like, okay. This has to be right. Now, did I do any research? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because if it's false, it's really not that cool of a stat. But so I didn't want to bust any balls, but this is from Bleacher Report Gridiron. Says this stat still stays true. Tim Tebow is the only quarterback drafted by the Broncos to win a playoff game.
Yeah.
Old Tim Tebow. And now most of the comments on this tweet 2Ks were flabbergasted on the size of his shoulder pads. Not the fact that this is true.
That's because it's the only thing he could do was fucking run. He wasn't going to throw. And like, they won. All right, they won that playoff game, but R.I.P. Demaryius Thomas. He's the one that won that playoff game because it was like a 5-yard pass, and Demaryius did all the work on that. So
and that defense.
Yeah, and they were playing against fucking Pittsburgh Steelers team. That offense was just. It was not what it was. Pretty similar to Pittsburgh's offense right now,
which we'll get into here in a little bit.
Bo Nix is going to win a lot of playoff games. I'm telling you, Denver's in good hands if they can keep that defense together, because they got a very good defense,
and keep Sean Payton.
And it got a little bit. I mean, I understand the game got away from them today. Buffalo beat them bad, but I mean, this Buffalo team's been milling for years now. Yeah. Josh Allen's been in the league for a long time. I want to see where Bo Nix is at 4 or 5 years down the road, because I think that he's the quarterback that they can build around for a long time.
Yeah. Yep. And possibly get him some more weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen which we'll get into once we get into our NFL games, but if you play fantasy, it's been like a revolving door of running backs, and none of them have been really that good. Mm-mm. So, but yeah, 2Ks. Let's get into this college football. Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes here, because can we take a second and just appreciate this weekend?
Oh, man.
We have playoff football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, today, tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. So if that doesn't trip your trigger, if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what I'm out of suggestion.
Yeah, no,
I'm out of suggestions.
And I mean, the last night or Friday night's game was not really great. I didn't think Ohio State looked very sharp. Texas at a time in the end of that game really, had a drive going where they could have made something happen
Let's jump into that.
and turn it over. But the Notre Dame game Thursday night just kind of started the weekend off because that was a hell of a football game.
Yeah, that's why we're saving it for last. So let's dive into the Ohio State Texas game here, 2Ks. I said last week that the problem I have with Texas and Quinn Ewers is every game it seems like I always want more from that offense. I always want more. They have a great running game. They have good receivers, not great receivers. I mean, if you're comparing the receiving cores of Ohio State and Texas, you give it to Ohio State four out of 5 times. I mean, their wide receiver core is stacked. Probably, I mean, you could argue the best in the country. And if you're trying to find another one, I'd love to hear it. But it always Ewers didn't have that bad of a line.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. To me, you're always going to have the questions, though, when you have a talent like Arch Manning. Did Texas do the right thing? Did Texas do the right thing of sticking with Quinn and not going to Arch? And I don't know. I can go back and forth on that. But I think that's always going to be a question.
And we've seen a little bit. I mean, when Ewers was down for those 2 games, we saw Manning play well, however, not against any real big competition. And we saw him for one play. He had 1 carry for 8 yards. And, later on in that game, when it came down to that, what was it, fourth, the fourth down where everyone expected him in, and all of a sudden he's not.
Yeah.
So, but the overall just kind of for a quarterback that is getting all of this pomp and circumstance, like, we've pumped him up. And at the beginning of the season looked great. Arch Manning comes in, looks very good. And it seems like I'm not going to say it's been a regression throughout the year, but it just seems like I'm just disappointed, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, they most of the time in with college football teams, that you see that they get Notre Dame, perfect example, a team that gets better second half of the season going into the playoff, and they just continue to be a better version of themselves every single Saturday that they take the field. And with this Texas team, it was like when you watch them in the Michigan game. Now the way that it worked out at that time, a lot of people I think still kind of thought Michigan was better than what they were. But when you watch Texas just manhandle them in Ann Arbor, it was like, holy shit, this team's fucking for real. They got NFL players on both sides of the ball. This is a hell of a team. And then as they lose the first time to Georgia, and then they lose in the conference championship to Georgia, and it was just like, okay, this team hasn't gotten really any better. They're kind of just the same version of themselves, all season long, to where other teams going into the postseason, going into the conference championship game, it just seemed like they were getting better and better, and this team just really, it was almost like they peaked out in the middle of the season,
and then we're just stagnant. I mean, if you take the first game against Georgia, they look bad, and then the second time around looked better, but still not. I mean, it led that I need to see more from Quinn Ewers. Now, I'm not turning this into an Ewers bash sesh, because that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to bring home is this kid is, he was the first, like, quote unquote $1 million NIL guy at Ohio State. Didn't even see the field for Ohio State. Transfers out. Now he's played 2 meaningful years at Texas, and still hasn't, declared for the draft, which leading up to that game, I wouldn't expect a decision until afterwards. But there's a lot of folks saying, he wants to come back to Texas. Now, if you're Texas, you've been paying Arch as well. And would you waste another year of Arch bringing this kid back? And then there's rumors on top of that, 2Ks, that he has offers from other schools upwards of $6 million. And I'm sitting here going, this is what $6 million get you? And like I said, not trying to crap on the guy at all, Because if someone's going to pay me $6 million, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. You're worth how much someone is going to pay you. But it's like, okay, if he's worth that,
Mhm.
and if Cam Ward could come back, how much would he be worth?
Right.
So, and then there's just a lot of moving parts. I'm more disappointed on how Texas played rather than stoked at how Ohio State played.
Sure.
I
Sure.
guess is
I thought
the
Ohio State played. I don't think they played good at all.
no.
I don't think compared to what they did against Oregon.
Yeah.
Where they just completely ambushed Oregon in the first half, and Oregon was just they were done. Like that game went to halftime, and it was like, okay, we're just gonna do whatever we can not to be embarrassed, because that game they were just completely ambushed. I thought Texas defensively did great.
Yeah.
Against Ohio State to hold Ohio State to 28 points, hold Jeremiah Smith after what he did against
One catch,
Oregon,
3
the
yards.
one catch, 3 yards. Like they did, their defense did their job.
Yeah.
They did the job. If you said at the beginning of that night, hey Kyle, Texas is going to hold Ohio State to 28 points, I'm going to say, holy shit, Texas might
won.
beat them.
Yeah.
They might win that game. No, it was that was masterful. I mean, to me, Notre Dame, like if you're Notre Dame here in the championship game, if you can hold Ohio State in the 20s, that's your chance.
Got a good
'Cause
shot.
if they get over that into the 30s, now we're in fucking trouble.
Yeah, because Notre Dame is not going to win in a shootout.
No,
That is not
can't
going
do
to
it. Can't do it. They have to take the what Michigan does to Ohio State, where they try to just run the clock.
Yep.
And just and that's all that they can do. And if they try to get into the shootout game, boy,
Yeah.
But as far as getting back to Ewers, like it's time. It's time to move on. You have
I
to
agree.
you have to move on. It's almost like he's kind of if he does come back or if he transfers whatever. I think if he comes back to college, he's gonna obviously transfer because I think Texas is kind of there has to be some communication with him as like, and he has to know also.
Yeah.
That it's time to move on. He had his chance. Like they gave him the keys to it this year. They had a team that was capable of being able to do it
for 2 years.
And 2 years. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, go back to that. Washington was, I still think Washington was or Texas was a better team between them and Washington last year. I do, and I think Texas would have gave Michigan a harder game in the championship game than Washington did. So they had the opportunity, and they didn't get it done then either. So yeah, it's time to move on.
Yeah, they're like you said, if holding Smith to one catch, and even Ibuka, the number 2 guy, 5 catches for 51 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And what gives me the hope and kind of the vision of how Notre Dame can beat Ohio State is simply the fact that I don't know how much man-to-man these guys have seen, but Notre Dame is going to run a ton of it. And they have the secondary. I'm not saying that because Jeremiah Smith's on a whole other level. That kid he's the best receiver in college football. He will be the best receiver in college football for 2 more years. Yep. But I guarantee Notre Dame has the staff, the players in the right positions to. I'm not going to say they're going to hold Smith to one catch.
Sure.
Because
I don't think that's
not going to happen.
Probably not. No.
But to contain him, to keep him under 75 yards, in my opinion, would be a success.
You have to. It starts up front for me. I think if there's a weak spot, with Ohio State, it's their offensive line. Their offensive line is not elite. They're good. But they're not elite. Notre Dame's defensive line is, I would say, elite. They can get after it. If they can get pressure to Howard in his face to where he can't step up and he's got to go lateral back there, then I say Notre Dame has a chance. Now, if he has time to throw. And he's able to get, because that's the thing. Notre Dame's going to run a lot, is probably going to match up and run a lot of man-to-man with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to do it. But when you do it, you have to get pressure in Howard's face, and you cannot allow him to step up or be able to step into throws, because then, he's going to get picked apart.
Yeah.
Or they're going to get picked apart.
And to be honest with you, what scares me the most is Travion Henderson receiving out of the backfield.
That was the biggest play of the game against Texas. That play to go into halftime, Texas scores there, and to get that game into halftime where it was, and then Ohio State puts up a touchdown with 20 some seconds left to go in the half. And I mean, that was it. That was
when everyone's saying, "Oh, just see where this first play leads you, and then
Yep.
kind of adjust your game plan
Yep.
going forward. Henderson's like, no, I got
Yep.
this. I got this, and is untouched
Yep.
for what 70 some. What was it? Uh,
But you look at
75
you look
yards.
at that last possession of the first half, and what has Notre Dame done in both of these playoff games? And I'm not talking about the Indiana one, but you go back to the Georgia game.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame forces the turnover. They score off of that, and then they lead off the second half, taking the kick return back for the touchdown. Notre Dame can't do anything against Penn State. They
No.
can't. They're not moving the ball at all. They go. They end up going to the backup quarterback because of the injury there, and they get down there and they put, I know it's not a touchdown, but they put 3 points on the board,
Yeah.
and that was huge. So Notre Dame, what they've been able to do in the two games as far as closing out the half, that makes me believe like, hey, they're not going to give up the big one. They're not, and that's where if Notre Dame can shorten this game up as much as they can and try to keep this low scoring and try to keep Ohio State's defense off the field, and that's where I get back to Notre Dame also, like they can run the football. They
Yeah.
can run the football, and quarterback runs the football. And if they can just they don't have to pick up big plays. They pick up first downs and they continue to let the clock run, and just try to shorten the game up as much as you can. That has been the recipe to Michigan beating them for the last however many years. It's not like you go back 3 years ago. That's the only game where Michigan actually just really tried to play with them and had all the big play touchdowns. The other 3 wins that Michigan's had against them, it's been run the clock and keep that talented offense off the field as much as you can.
I agree. And I was I was also disappointed in Sark.
Mhm.
It seemed like his play calling was mediocre at best. Nothing was really flashy.
Mhm.
And now, because and the reason I bring this up is this game was kind of fed to us as, two of the offensive geniuses. And I'm not talking about Ryan Day, I'm talking about Chip Kelly. Just want to get that out there before anyone says anything. You got Chip Kelly versus Steve Sarkisian.
Mhm.
And it's going to be who's going to outflank who's going to make and they're really on both sides.
Mhm.
Really wasn't.
Mhm.
I mean, aside from that Henderson, screen pass, that was pretty much the explosion that me personally, last week I said I was taking Ohio State and the point, I was giving the points and smashing the over. This game didn't even come close to the over.
Nope.
Didn't even come close. So I was seeing this more of a track meet than what it turned out to be.
Yeah.
Kudos to the defenses, because maybe I think what actually happened was the defenses played better than the offense, obviously, but I think it was more to a point that what any of us really thought. So kudos to the defense. And
talking about Sark there, like, all right, I've heard for years and years and years all these the media just basically bash Ryan Day because of the losses to Michigan, and I've heard it for years where they have bashed James Franklin for not being able to win a big game at Penn State. Well, how come Sark's not in that conversation? Because what are the big games that he's, you go back, you can say that he had the big win against Alabama. That was a regular season game.
Yeah.
I'm talking, when I say big games, I'm talking playoff games, conference championship games. Like, where's the big Sark win?
Yeah.
Lost to Georgia this year. Texas I think is a better team than Georgia. They lose twice to them though this year. Come on. I mean, like, I'm not impressed. There's nothing. Sark he's supposed to be this offensive genius. You get in there and you fucking run a quick pitch out to, inside of the goal line there against Ohio State. Like, you think you're gonna move that Ohio State defensive front there on that play and make something happen? Like, no, you're not. You're not. You have this quarterback that has been in college football for 3 years. He was supposed to be, the guy. I understand he started his career in Ohio State, but number one recruit, and you don't have the balls to call a play let him throw it and try to go at one of these, try to attack the corners or try to attack something. You're going to try to run it in on them,
or put Arch in. And if you are going to run it, put Arch in.
Like, and you scored your touchdowns off of throwing the ball to your backfield. That's how they scored their 2 touchdowns in the game. So get creative with it. But I just thought it was pitiful. And I don't think it's fair to just keep on piling on James Franklin and keep piling on Ryan Day and all that, and Sark not to be a part of this conversation, because I'm not impressed.
I honestly think the longevity of Sark right now, if this continues, he will be in that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he's lucky. He's lucky that they even were in this game.
yeah,
Probably should have lost the Arizona State game.
yeah, wouldn't that have been awesome to see Scatabo just wrecking shit again? Now, to kind of wrap this one up on this game and wrap up the Quinn Ewers discussion, do you think the game is different if he still has the mullet? Because that was one of the better mullets in the
Yeah,
game.
it was a pretty good mullet.
I mean, it seemed like he spun it better
Mhm.
with the mullet.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like Samson and his hair. I mean, could be.
He just doesn't like. He's a very solid quarterback. He just doesn't have like the.
It looks like he's gonna cry.
There's just not a quarterback in college football this year that has like the it factor to
Yeah.
me. Like you go look back at last year's draft, and I mean just Caleb Williams, and I get it. His last year at USC was not great, but Drake May, like when you watch those Jaden Daniels shit, when you watch those guys, they just had like. There was no question when they were going into the draft that they were going to be drafted in the top 10. They were going to be drafted in the top 3, and that they were going to be a franchise quarterback. This year, it's like that's why when this playoff started, it was like, holy shit, this is an open field because whatever team's going to show up, there's not going to be a ton of points. There's just not an elite quarterback in this.
And to kind of further your point, we've already talked how neither one of us think that Shedeur is a franchise quarterback.
I mean, I think that if we're just going by who is going to be the best quarterback in this year's draft, I think you got to go with Ward.
Yeah,
over Shedeur,
or even Will Howard.
And I don't think either one of them are first rounders.
No, and no one talks about Will Howard.
No,
and Drew Aller needs to stay.
He has to.
He has to. He has to.
Yes, and I cracked up when I heard that Milroe was leaving Alabama to go into the draft too, because like that kid sucks.
Yeah, especially this year.
He is a mobile quarterback. He can run and he can make things happen with his feet. But when you turn him into having to be a passer, which that's what the NFL is.
Yeah.
You look at the best running quarterback in the game, and it's Lamar Jackson, hands down. Lamar Jackson also can throw.
Yeah. Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Milroe's not even close. He will be like who's the DRT for the Browns. I mean, he's probably. I mean, hate to disrespect, but he's probably the worst quarterback I've ever seen in the NFL.
He's close. I mean,
that was the Browns' game plan was when they stopped playing Jameis. It was like, okay, we don't want to win any more games this year. We're not going to play. Not that Jameis is a world beater, but Jameis can win games.
And at least he does it entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably the best pregame speech pumper up guy in the history of the NFL, or at least going right now. And you get Jameis in the snow, watch out, because we've seen that, and it's been just phenomenal. 2Ks. Let's switch over to the Notre Dame Penn. I put Penn State. The Notre Dame Penn State game. This kicked off the whole weekend, like we already talked about, and boy oh boy,
what a game!
Boy oh boy,
what a game!
Before we get into this, I want to make a deal with you, 2Ks. We're not going to talk about Brian Kelly because I think that that whole ship has sailed, and quite frankly, I'm kind of bored of making fun of him.
He dug his fucking grave, and he can lay in it now.
Yep, exactly. We need to, as I'm not even saying as Notre Dame fans, as sports fans, we just need to get. I understand in the moment because it was the best thing that ever happened to Notre Dame athletics is him leaving.
100%, yeah. And the crazy and the funniest thing is like when it all happened, it was like Notre Dame fans were like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah. I was.
Oh, 100%.
I was.
Every Notre Dame fan I've ever talked to was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But once it was rumored that they were going to give the job to Freeman, I was blown away. Blown away. I'm like, yep, okay, we're going to be good. We're going to be good. Did I think we'd be this good this fast?
Fuck no.
No.
Nope.
And I read a stat because there was a lot of people saying, well, all right, yeah, Kelly left. How many of his players are playing? I think on the 85-man roster, there's 15, and none of them have seen the field
Mhm.
in the entire play.
Mhm.
So it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, no, I can remember when they hired him. Didn't know much about him, obviously. Don't follow Notre Dame like Notre Dame fans do. But I remember when they hired him and was like, okay, this guy can flat out recruit. Don't know the type of coach, how he's going to be able to coach in these big games, but he's going to recruit well enough to where they're going to be relevant, and he's going to be able to have time with good talent to be able to figure out the coaching side.
Yeah.
Well, he's figured out the coaching shit in a matter of a couple of years, and now has their, when he took over that job, Notre Dame is Notre Dame. They're what they are, but they were not, an elite program. They are an elite program now,
And
regardless of what happens.
yeah, regardless of what happens next Monday.
Yes.
I mean, and we can't have this conversation without saying and without bringing home the fact that not only is he a great coach, but he's surrounded himself with probably two of the best coordinators
Mhm.
in the game right
Mhm.
now. And Notre Dame, do not let those guys out of the building.
Well,
Do not let them out of the building.
as a Michigan fan and going through what happens last year, now Michigan's coaching staff a little bit younger than what last year's and what, but when you're good, teams or other programs, other teams, they tend to start knocking.
The good part is that Al Golden has been there, done that.
Mhm. Yep.
Him so much, I don't think would. I'm not gonna say would never leave,
Mhm.
but right now I think he's in a good spot.
Sure, absolutely, 100%.
And even with Denbrock,
Mhm.
he's been. I believe this is his third trip back to South Bend. I don't think he's leaving for a while either.
Sure. Yep.
And I guess you could say one of the good parts is that both those guys are a little older.
Mhm.
They're not, your upcoming flashy, offensive minded, defensive minded, like head coaches. So I'm not really worried about them leaving.
Mhm.
If they do, we'll have a whole other discussion.
There's going to be and whether it happens, whether there's interviews that take place, I'm not going to sit here and speak like I know what I'm talking about as far as what Freeman is thinking or what Freeman wants to do. But there are going to be NFL franchises that are contacting him to.
The Bears have already requested.
Yes. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I'm almost certain that you and I will get our interview request from the Bears any day now because they're interviewing everybody. They're interviewing everybody, and they just extended him.
Mhm.
So it would absolutely floor me.
Oh, it's going to be like for how many years there was it the Harbaugh situation every single year.
Yeah.
Michigan was renegotiating a new contract with him and extending his contract because they knew that the NFL was going to call every single offseason and they were going to go for it. And I don't and that's the thing. I don't know, what Freeman, what his plans are, but he just, to me, and when you listen to him or how he just, how those kids in that locker room gravitate to him. He just seems like a college dude. Like he just,
at least for now.
At least, yeah, absolutely.
10 years from now.
Yeah. Then maybe there's a lot of coaches that do that. They do what they do in college, and then after a few years, hey, they get the itch to try something different. But I think for the time being, for the next, I would say, at least give it another 3-4 years. He's going to be in South Bend.
But yeah, this game 2Ks.
Ohio State now starts to if they fall off and Ryan Day or something, or they lose another one to Michigan, if they lose 5 in a row to Michigan, Ohio State might be calling for Freeman.
Well, Coach Freeman, delete that number, block it, don't need it. But I will say this 2Ks, the biggest question mark coming into the playoff for Notre Dame was the kicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Jeter thank goodness he's healthy.
Yeah.
Because before the injury, lights out.
Yeah.
Post injury, sucked. Somehow, playoffs, they're calling him Mr. January. This kid's, if you watch that last kick, I don't know how he makes it almost like do a 90-degree turn in the air, but that ball should have been outside the upright. And somehow, whatever English he put on it, Some say Jesus blew it in. All I know is that it made it.
Mhm.
But this team is hitting on all cylinders on all three phases.
Mhm.
We've seen the only thing we really haven't seen, which I think the kid last week against Georgia, same dude gets a running into the kicker twice, back-to-back plays. We haven't seen the blocked punt yet or the blocked kick.
Blocked one.
Aside from that, we've seen everything that this Notre Dame team has been publicized for doing all season long as advertised, and this is what we're seeing. Riley Leonard is not going to throw 350 and 3 touchdowns. That's just not the player he is. Jeremiah Love said he wasn't going to hurdle anyone, yet he did. And after he scored that touchdown, where he should have been stopped 4 times before he crossed the end zone, that was in my eyes, that was we're going to win this game. That run right there.
Yeah, that was a man run. It was yeah.
On a bad leg.
You know, for me, like you knew going into that game that Riley Leonard was going to run the football because that's Notre Dame's identity. He had to be able to run the ball, and it wasn't like he ran great, but he ran well because nothing's going to come easy against that Penn State defensive front. And Jeremiah Love run was huge to me. The biggest point on the offense is you got to go with Greathouse. Jaden Greathouse to me making the big plays, kind of a receiver that I know after last year, kind of going into this season, there was a lot of talk about him being the guy. Notre Dame needed a wide receiver to step up and be the guy, and they went all season long and really never had a guy that separated himself. And Greathouse kind of, I mean, I don't follow it like you guys do, but I watch and I look at the numbers and everything. Greathouse didn't really live up to it this year.
No.
In the biggest game, in the biggest moment, biggest of the season, he shows up and goes for over 100 yards and a touchdown like that.
Breaks 4 ankles.
Nobody was expecting that. No. And to win big games in this situation, when you have 2 teams that I don't know if you could come up with 2 teams that are more evenly matched than these 2 teams. I mean, the game played itself out. It takes guys like that stepping up and having that moment, and for him to go over 100 yards and score a touchdown. If you were betting on him, he was like his odds were like plus 120 to have over 2 receptions.
Yeah.
So for that guy to step up and have that game, and it wasn't even just the touchdown. He made a couple big catches on 3rd down plays to pick up a first down and extend drives. And no, it was impressive, and that's what it takes to win these games. You have to have somebody somebody has to step up, and it can't just be the obvious one, like a Jeremiah Love who's been doing it all season long.
Yeah, basically, kind of I guess you could say that is kind of the unique thing about that receiver room is it's not one guy every game.
No,
I mean we've seen
the Georgia game is the Faison kid. He was and I think that he kind of made himself the most consistent one
100%
throughout the year.
And now, mind you, he missed like 2 or 3 games with an injury. So, and then compound that into winning the national title for the with the
lacrosse,
the lacrosse team, and he's missing lacrosse practice now. So he goes almost year round. So, and I mean, he is a slot receiver. He's undersized, fast as shit. Can do kickoff, punt returns if you want to. But another guy is Aeneas Williams, freshman running back, stepped up huge. Not only, I mean, he only had 2 carries for 17 yards, but 5 catches for 66 yards.
Yeah. We got a funny story, and we'll talk about that one later about him.
But it's basically like I'm not going to call the wide receiver room like the land of misfit toys, but it kind of is. It kind of is. There isn't that dude, like again, Jeremiah Smith is ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
But even Abuka would definitely be a number 1 on this team. Would be a number 1 team, a number 1 guy on most teams. These guys would be like a number 3 or 4 on anyone else's team, and they're coming in, or they're like Greathouse. Yet last year, Started off the season great. Started off his freshman year great. I believe it was his freshman year. I believe this is sophomore year.
Yeah.
But has been very inconsistent. And for him to step up and, like you said, the biggest game, I mean, awesome.
Yeah. Now, getting over to the other side, we talk about James Franklin, and he's always been in the conversation of never being able to win the big one. And this game, this way that this game plays out, is just it just falls on to the poor decisions that he has made year in and year out in big games and big situations. And in this one right here, game's tied 24-24. Take that fucking game into overtime. Your offense is the furthest thing from explosive, and you're playing against one of the best defenses in college football. Take your chances from the 25. Trust your defense that they can make a stop or they can hold to a field goal, and trust that you can play that game with them. Instead, you take a quarterback and you let him throw across the field. I mean, and look, I know that when he sent Aller out there, that he probably reminded him 2-3 times, hey, you can't throw back across your body. We cannot turn the ball over. It has to be high percentage throws. I know that was probably the conversation had. At the same time, this is college football. These are kids still. This is not NFL where you have professionals that have done this over and over and over again and practice this 2-minute drill, or in this situation it was under a minute.
Yeah.
And so you're sending him out there. You know that there's a high risk that something like this is going to happen. You have a receiving core that hasn't caught a pass all fucking night.
No.
Your tight end is the only thing that is a threat. So they're obviously gonna double him, triple him, do whatever they can to not let him get the ball. Their next best receiver is Singleton, the running back. Like, and you're gonna trust that we're gonna. And the thing is, like, if you go out there and you're on the 40 and you got to maybe pick up 2 first downs, and to get yourself into a shot for a field goal, all right, maybe I can live with that, fine. But you're backed up inside your own 20. And you're going to do that shit to where when you turn the ball over, Notre Dame can fucking kick it and win it. And that right there is, good football coaches knee that shit out and they take that to overtime. That was very, very pitiful coaching.
Especially with the college overtime.
Yes.
College overtime.
That overtime is set up for, there's not a coin toss. It doesn't matter about what happens. There is a coin toss, but it doesn't matter who wins it, because you're going to get a chance to have to score no matter what. And you have these two teams. They're basically the same teams. Aller can't run the ball like Leonard can, and I would say Aller is probably a little bit of a better thrower than Leonard. Either team has great receivers. Both teams have 2 really, really good running backs. Both teams have a really good offensive line. Like, when you look at these two teams on paper, that's why leading up to it, I'm like, this game is going to be a classic. Like, and it was. But what I get back to with Franklin is that game was lost because of poor coaching decision there at the end. Take that thing to overtime and just see what happens.
The only thing I did not disagree with more than that was Greg McElroy saying, if you're Notre Dame, you don't want to score a touchdown here. What the fuck are you talking about? Have you seen, and now, no disrespect to Jeter.
Yeah.
Which is a Red Sox fan, that's still weird for me to say. But would you rather be a guaranteed 6 or a fingers crossed that this is going to go? No, put me in the end zone.
I'm taking the guaranteed points.
Yeah. That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Now, you definitely don't want to score a touchdown here. No, the fuck you do. This is football. The point of this game is to score as many points as you can. I mean, yeah, especially with our lack of kicking. We got a comment here, 2Ks from B82. Where's Lou Holtz? Hopefully talking to Ryan Day. Hopefully they get to chat again, because that is going to be awesome. That is going to be awesome. Well, 2Ks,
I hope, and as much as this pains me to say, but I have never in my life have rooted for Notre Dame to win anything, and damn it, I'm rooting. I'm right there rooting for them on this one. I want them to win this game bad.
Me too. Speaking of which, 2Ks, let's take a peek at the line. Now, 2K crew, you're going to have to wait till next week to get our picks on this. But let's take a peek at the line. And that is not what I want. There it is. This line opened up post-game minus 9.5. Ohio State. I looked at that and I'm like, I hammered Notre Dame plus 9.5. I think this is a 7-point game at the most, or Ohio State just drubs it.
Yeah.
But it's at plus
What's the over under on it? Is it 45?
45.5. And the line has moved from minus 9.5 to minus 8.5. And it's minus 110 for both of them. So right now, that means there's pretty much even money on Ohio State and Notre Dame as we sit right now.
I called this one right out of the. As soon as Notre Dame beat Penn State, we were sitting there, and I said, I think my dad was sitting there, and I was like, it's going to be 9.5. It's going to be 9.5 as soon as it releases, and
you were
shit.
You were right. Yeah. I hammered it because
it's
9.5 points is a lot of points. I can't
stress enough, and I will. You'll continue to hear me say it all through the week, and you'll hear me say it again. Next week when we're talking about it. It's that first quarter.
Yeah.
Can Notre Dame survive? Because Ohio State's going to try to. Either Ohio State's going to come out like if I'm Notre Dame, I'm bringing all the Lou Holtz shit back in, and I'm trying to go and I'm trying to get something in Ryan Day's head of where he believes that Notre Dame is just going to out physical them. They're going to be tougher, and I would just keep on drilling that shit in Ohio State's head all week long. We're tougher than you. We're going to out physical you, and just keep saying that over and over again. Because how's Ohio State beat everybody? Because they're more athletic than you. They're faster than you. They have better athletes all over the place, and they can throw the ball on anybody in the nation. But if you tell them that you're tougher than them, Ryan Day is probably going to get in his head like, oh fuck, we got to win the rushing battle in this game. We're going to outrush them. We're going to outrush them. Howard's going to rush for more yards than Leonard. That's how we're going to win this game. And he'll take that shit and he'll fucking ride with it because that's the coach that Ryan Day is. So that's probably what he'll try to do. So that's if I'm Notre Dame, that's my strategy. Is I'm having my kids and my coaches say things like we're going to be tougher, we're going to out physical them, and I'm saying it over and over again because you can get in Ryan Day's head really really easy by saying that. But if Ohio State comes out like they did against Oregon and they just they can ambush a team because they have the star power and they have the athletes to do it. And that's the problem where, yeah, I'm with you. I think that absolutely Notre Dame can play within seven points with these guys. But if Ohio State comes out and they decide that they're just going to, throw the ball over the field and get it to their playmakers, this game could be 21-0 at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah. And fingers crossed it's not. Is B82 Brandon?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I think so. Especially if he's talking
about his brother will have plenty of Guinness at the compound next Monday. Anyone who's wondering, go ahead and text me. I'll give you Brandon's address. Let's all go over and empty him out of Guinness. Well, 2Ks. Let's put a bow on the Ohio State Notre Dame talk. I want to wrap this up with, or excuse me, Notre Dame Penn State. Excuse me. This game was won, or you could say this game was lost by James Franklin trying to big brother Marcus Freeman at that press conference.
Oh my God.
You can tell that pissed him off.
Yeah. And it should have.
Yeah.
It should have.
And I'm sure he appreciated the comment or the compliment on his hairline. I'm sure he appreciated that. But the comments that followed were absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. James Franklin has a way of doing that shit, and every single time that he gets a microphone in his face, he just feels like he has to just never shut up. He just continues to talk, and that's why people don't fucking like it.
Yeah, him and Cignetti.
I mean, he went, and it was for years there. It was him and Harbaugh. Harbaugh went at it with him all the time.
But I have a feeling moving forward, if they're ever at a press conference again, Marcus Freeman might not keep his mouth shut. Well, 2Ks. Let's jump into. Let's do some NFL.
Yeah.
It's not with that one. There we go. Let's talk about some NFL. Like we said, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, playoff football all throughout the weekend. And now for those of you that were bitching that the college football playoff games were lopsided, the NFL games are fucking lopsided too.
Mm-hmm.
Because the home teams are perfect so far. However, the Bucks are currently losing 7-3 against the Commanders, but that is still in the second quarter. But let's see here. Let's start Chargers Texans 2Ks. This one kind of surprised me. I did not expect Justin Herbert to throw 4 interceptions and did not expect CJ Stroud to, because he hasn't thrown for over 200 yards, or at least 282 that he did yesterday. Hasn't done that since like week 3 or 4 of the NFL
Yeah,
season.
and I mean, and with the exception of Nico Collins, who is an absolute beast.
Yes.
Receiving core is hurt. I mean,
Mhm.
Diggs has been out for pretty much the whole season, and you know, and then the injury to Tank Dell, like, and the Tank Dell injury was only just 3-4 weeks ago. So
Yeah, that was
yeah, it's a
nasty.
very depleted receiving core that he has, and it just seems like they kind of were the team that limped into the playoffs. Everybody counted them out, and
Well, them and the Steelers.
yeah,
Which we'll get to them.
but like, you know, nobody was talking. Everybody was saying that. Well, there was comments from people on, you know, ESPN saying that this was going to basically a bye week for the Chargers, which I thought was just complete disrespect, because this Chargers team, yeah, were they a hell of a lot better and you know, a lot better coached than what they have been in recent years, absolutely. But they're not. You know, when you look at these two rosters side by side, it's not. You can't call this a bye week. I thought that was you know. And this Texans defense fucking showed up. Like, we can talk about how good the offense was, but the defense is what won them this game. You turned Herbert over 4 times.
Yeah.
You know, Herbert just looked like he was seeing ghosts out there the entire game. And the touchdown pass to McConkey was really just kind of a fluke play where,
Yeah.
you know, the ball tipped out of there and into McConkey's hands, and he just happened to be nobody between him and the end zone, and he runs it for 80 some yard touchdown. So, no, it was a complete drubbing. And as far as for Herbert, like, it was pretty pitiful. Pretty pitiful.
I will say that this was not a Jim Harbaugh kind of game.
No.
They had
go away from the running game.
18 rushes for a combined 50 yards. J.K. Dobbins has half of those carries and half of those yards. Granted, still coming back from that injury, but this is not, you know, this isn't your textbook Jim Harbaugh game. He's the one that wants to, you know, have 150 yards combined rushing for the team. And if Herbert throws for, 200, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
And Lad McConkey's a dude. We can't overstate that. The team had 14 catches. He had 9. The team had 242 receiving yards. He had 197.
Mm-hmm.
So it was basically the Justin Herbert, Lad McConkey show. And when you try to do that against this staunch Texas defense, you're going to get got.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get got, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep. There's this, you know, and look, when Harbaugh took over this Chargers job, there was a lot of, you know, cap space issues. They had to, you know, clean house on a lot. He's got to get some more playmakers, and he will do that. The defense, I think, is very good. They were put in a lot of bad situations last night yesterday by their offense, but they got to get more playmakers. They got to get you know, and I thought Dobbins had a great year. You know, his kind of the best year of his career, coming off some major injuries.
Yep.
So, you know, I think that it's always like when you come off of those major injuries, you have that year, and then it's the next year where that's when you have your best year. And I think we'll see a better version of him next year. The offensive line is going to continue to get better. They were way better this year than what they were last. But to me, you know, McConkey was kind of the real bright story coming. Sure. You know, he was not like he was he was drafted in the early second round, but he was not a guy that, you know, you were talking about top 3, top 4 receivers in that draft.
Yeah.
He played way over what his expectation was. So he was great, but they got to get a receiver that can stretch the field. I think it's that Quentin Johnston, he just isn't the guy. He's had some games where he'll score a touchdown and on a long pass, but drops way too many passes. So they got to get somebody out there that can stretch the field, that's more consistent, that doesn't have near that many drops, and somebody that Herbert can trust. But you know, you can go try to come up with all different kinds of excuses of them not having the players, but at the bottom line last night was Herbert was just not good enough.
No,
you got to be better than that. And yeah, he looked like shit. And even in situations like that where they're dropping back and throwing the ball, you know, they threw the ball more than what they would like, but in situations like that during the regular season, how many times you see Herbert make plays with his feet?
Yeah.
He didn't even try. He wasn't even trying to do that. So that was where I was kind of just upset watching it. And I also needed him for over 14.5 rushing yards. So
Me too.
that kind
Me
of
too.
was bothersome to see him not even try.
Oh, what's bothersome is this Steelers team, 2Ks.
Yeah. Is it time? Is it time for Tomlin to go? Has he just went stale and with Pittsburgh? Like, I think he's a great head coach, and I think if the Pittsburgh decides to go elsewhere, Tomlin will probably have an NFL job next season.
Oh, he'll have a job tomorrow.
Yeah, like
tomorrow.
And to me, like if Tomlin loses his job in Pittsburgh, if I'm the Bears, I hire Tomlin.
Hands down.
I don't even need to interview.
Nope.
Or finish anything else out, because I think that's kind of what the Bears need. Is I know a lot of people really want Ben Johnson from Detroit, but I don't know if that's necessarily what the Bears really
give me
need.
a proven commodity at this point. No disrespect to any of the coordinators. Ben Johnson is the shiny toy.
100%.
Give me a proven commodity.
Yeah.
Give me that.
I mean, look at what is it? Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
Fucking great offensive coordinator for the Patriots. Tom
Terrible
Brady
head
for
coach.
years. Terrible head coach.
Yep.
Who's to say that Ben Johnson's just going to go? He's a phenomenal play caller. I think he's the best play caller in the NFL. The shit that they do in Detroit. Now, obviously, you have to have the offensive line and you have to have the star power to do it.
Yeah.
But what he does with that team and what that offense can do, where they basically are going to score 30 points on you every single time that they take the field, is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But he's never been in charge of a team and done anything like that. So that's where, when you have a franchise that's as big of a joke as the Bears is, hiring somebody that's never done it before is probably not. Exactly.
Well, the tail of this tape lies with number 22, 2Ks. King Henry did not disappoint.
Either did Lamar.
No.
I mean,
no.
And because King Henry is a fucking stud.
Yes.
But how do you defend that?
You don't.
That read option with him and Lamar. How do you defend it? I don't know. I don't know what you do, because they came out in the first quarter and it just seemed like Lamar kept it every single time. And before you know it, it's the first quarter and Lamar's already got damn near 40 rushing yards and Henry hasn't even really touched the ball.
Nope.
And then they start cheating to Lamar, and next thing you know, now you're getting, and as soon as Derrick Henry gets the ball and he's downhill, he's got a step or two downhill. Goodbye. Mm-hmm. If you can bottle Henry up to where he's got to move left or right when he's getting the carry, he's half the running back.
You have a chance.
Yep, you can bottle him up, but if he's got one step on you going downhill, it's game over. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why, obviously Baltimore saw that that's why they wanted to bring him over, and they knew that pairing him up with Lamar Jackson and running the read option with those two, it's obviously going to allow Derrick Henry to get that step going down, because you can't cheat that, because you know that what Lamar can do with his feet. It's, in my opinion, Lamar Jackson is the runaway MVP this year. He is, in the way that this team is created. And I love Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. I love Josh Allen, but what Lamar is on this team, what this offense can do, this is that. We put it this way: that game next week between Baltimore and Buffalo is going to be awesome.
Quite possibly might be the best game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But let me shed some light here, 2Ks. Take Derrick Henry out. Take Lamar out. Steven Sims, Justice Hill, and Mark Andrews had, 27, 31, 32 rushing yards. The Steelers as a team had 29 rushing yards. Mm-hmm. I'll say that again, 29 rushing yards. Najee Harris was, and all these guys were healthy. Najee had 17 yards. Jalen Warren had 6. Russ had 6. Now, when you add in Lamar and when you add in Derrick Henry, they rushed for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Lamar didn't have to do it with his arm. Yep. They did it without Zay Flowers.
Yeah. But when he needed to make a throw, the throw to Bateman in the end zone for a touchdown, like he made all the throws. He didn't make any mistakes. He didn't turn the ball over. And when Pittsburgh looked like they were getting something together, Offensively, they were able to make a couple stops and get the ball back, and they, put 14 points on the board. And then next thing you know, Baltimore runs the ball
There goes Derrick
12
Henry.
straight times, and they just I mean, Baltimore got the ball, and there was like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and they just and it's I think it was 21-14, and they just ran the ball basically 12 times in a row, gained about 60 yards out of it, continued to get first down after first down.
Mm-hmm.
And Tomlin's over there not knowing whether or not to use a timeout, can't use a timeout because they just keep on picking up first downs, or they keep on picking up 8-yard carries, and just completely defeated them.
Yeah, you asked the question about, because to me, this was more about the Steelers completely sucking, because everyone and their brother knew the Ravens are going to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been historically that Tomlin not only covers in these games, but he's a very good record against Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
I think it starts. I mean, you need a quarterback. This whole two quarterback thing. I understand you got them both cheap on a discount. I get that, but that experiment's done.
Mm-hmm.
That experiment's done.
And then they showed Justin Fields a couple times last night, but he didn't run the ball.
No,
I mean, like, to me, you add an extra blocker when you're. Look at what Baltimore does.
Yeah,
you have. I mean, no, he's not okay. Justin Fields is nothing close to Lamar Jackson, because Lamar Jackson is just on another level than anybody else when it comes to mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
The only other mobile quarterback is Michael Vick that we've ever seen that can do that is similar to what now Lamar Jackson is a better thrower of the football than Michael Vick. So, but if you're gonna show packages of Justin Fields, let him run the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose in situations like that? You have Najee Harris, who's not a very good running back, six carries for 17 yards. Jalen Warren is more of a receiving scat back style.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be a guy that runs between the tackles. You have Justin Fields, who is a big quarterback. He can take hits. I mean, he was a quarterback for the Bears, so he took plenty of hits. He's used to that.
Yes, he did.
Allow him to be a part of that and run Russell Wilson's not the quarterback anymore that's going to run away from that can, when plays break down like he did in his Seattle days, where he could run for 12 yards and pick up a first down and run out of bounds and not get touched. He's not that guy anymore. So, yeah, I understand going with Russell Wilson over Fields in the season, because what Russell Wilson can do throwing the football, Justin Fields is just not ever going to be that thrower, that can make plays downfield. But if you're going to have him and you're going to show him in situations, on third and shorts and stuff like that, fucking use him.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, there's a lot more question marks and Tomlin is one of those question marks.
Mm-hmm.
And the Steelers are not known for firing coaches, so we shall see.
The thing is, it's hard in his situation because he has been really good. He gets his teams to the playoffs, but all of his teams are just, they get to the playoffs and they can't win.
Yeah.
It's always the same thing. And it's not just him. It's not just on him. He hasn't been given, a situation where he can make a run. Since Roethlisberger has left there, he has not had a roster that is set up for him to go to make a run. He has not had a quarterback. You have to have a quarterback in this league if you're going to go win a Super Bowl.
Speaking of quarterbacks, 2Ks, you mentioned the Josh Allen versus Lamar next week. And this Bills team took it to this Broncos team. And it, in my eyes, it started and stopped with James Cook.
Mm-hmm.
Let James cook. And boy, oh boy, did he. 23 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. That allowed Josh Allen to do what Josh Allen does, 2Ks. Mm-hmm. He went 20 of 26, 272 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And yet again, 0 interceptions.
Yep.
Because rewind to last year, we were all, man, Josh Allen would be absolutely elite if he'd stop turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't turned the ball over hardly any this year.
It's the key. If Josh Allen continues to take care of the football, I think that they are the team to beat in this division, and that's speaking a lot, because there's 3 teams in the AFC that are fucking good,
Mm-hmm.
really, really good, and can beat each other on any given night. But if if Josh Allen can just not turn the ball over, I think Buffalo has a better defense than Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I think Buffalo has better playmakers than outside of Lamar and Derrick Henry. What do they really have? Mark Andrews. I mean, that's
Yeah.
their next best playmaker. Where Buffalo has a really good running back and Cook. They have really good receivers. They have two really solid tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
They just have they can throw the ball all over the place and make plays. And then, we can sit here and talk all day about Kansas City and what they can do.
Yeah.
And, I just think that, out of all of them, I think Kansas City has the best defense. They can lean back on that defense, and then they have a quarterback that just seems to always find a way to win.
Yep.
So you have three teams, but to me, Josh Allen cannot beat Baltimore, and he cannot beat Kansas City if he turns the football over. But if he doesn't turn the football over, I'm putting my money on Buffalo punching their ticket and getting through this to the Super Bowl.
And I think a lot of this game in particular, 2K, is the Bills Broncos. No one thought the Broncos would be here. Rookie
They're
quarterback.
playing on house money today.
Yes.
Did not go, as planned, but they're on house money. This team is way ahead of, any true expectations. And so for them to get into the playoff, for them to be in this game, they're gonna be back. Bo Nix I think he's proven this year that he belongs.
Yeah.
And they've had some other guy, Cortland Sutton has stepped up big time.
Yeah.
Him finally having a quarterback that can throw him the ball. I think he has showed that he is, a top, a number one receiver, number one guy. And now it's just, and they have a lot of other, young receivers on that team. To me, with what the next thing for Denver is, they have to get a rushing game. They have to be able to. Their offensive line has to get better, but it can't be Bo Nix that leads you in rushing yards week in, week out. And too many times when you look at their box scores, Bo Nix is leading the team in rushing.
This game in particular, on 4 carries. But so to me, like I said, there was a lot. The Broncos plus the points was a very sexy pick this week. I didn't see it. I didn't
either. I did not either. But I think that with a lot of people, when they make their picks, is they expect Josh Allen to turn the ball over, and when he turns the ball over, they become very, very vulnerable team. And so when you look at a lot of Buffalo's losses over the years, a lot of them are lost because Josh Allen tries to make too much happen in situations, and when he just plays within himself, he's fucking incredible. That's the frustrating thing about him is he has all the tools and everything to be elite and great. He just tries to make too much happen and shoots himself in the foot on it, and way too often.
And like you said, that hasn't been the case this year. And 2K's he's engaged, so he's obviously more mature now. So if he's this good prior to the ring, now let's say wins a Super Bowl, gets that ring, and then gets wifed up. Now 2 rings, same year.
Yeah.
Watch out, NFL.
And I hope it happens. I obviously want the Lions to be there in the Super Bowl, and I want the Lions to win it all. But like I keep on saying over and over, like I want Buffalo to be there because that game would be fucking epic.
Yes,
we got to see a glimpse of it earlier this year when Buffalo went to Detroit and beat them. And Detroit, you can talk about Detroit's injuries, but whatever, it's the NFL. No excuses. But that game was fucking awesome. I mean, points everywhere. Defenses couldn't stop, one another. That's the shit I want to see.
And to add to that and kind of put a bow on this is the Bills beat the 2 number 1 seeds already. So if it happens to come down to AFC Championship, Chiefs, Bills, Josh has already done it. Comes down to Super Bowl, Lions, Bills. Josh has already done that. However, you never know really which team you're going to get when you get the Lions. Like because I would hate to watch their film. I would honestly, because you just don't know.
I do. I also think too, and I mean, we can, not spend a lot of time on him, but there's a such thing in the NFL too where you can go. There's too much time off, and I think with Kansas City, as good as that Houston defense looked, Kansas City better be fucking ready to play because that Houston defense is going to be ready to fly, and Kansas City's offense has not been spectacular. Their defense is not going to give up a lot, and it's going to be really hard for Stroud to put points on the board. But they're going, 20-some days with these starters not playing, because they didn't play in the last game of the year because they were ducking the fucking Bengals. But But no, I think that's a true thing. Like they
Mhm.
better be Kansas City better be ready to go because this Houston. I mean, look what Houston did last year too. They knocked out the Ravens.
Yeah.
So
Well, 2K, speaking of a team that needs some time off, let's talk about Packers Eagles. This was you made the comment before we went live that probably could be a lot of room on that plane back to Green Bay because most of these guys are in the hospital.
just seems like a couple years in a row here with LaFleur. I think LaFleur is top notch, but it just seems like when it gets to the end of the season, he's just losing guys left and right.
Yeah.
And he's already got I would say it's a fairly deep receiving core, but they don't have a guy.
No.
And so that's frustrating. And then if anybody really has stepped up in situations, because he hasn't been consistent all year long, he goes games where he just completely disappears. But if you want to talk about having a guy, especially in games like in playoff games like this, it's Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
And he goes down today with an injury.
Yep.
Josh Jacobs, phenomenal season, best season of his career.
He got
had
dinged up
really
too.
good seasons in his career, but he tried everything. I mean, he that's a hell of a Philadelphia defense.
Yeah.
And to put up the numbers that Jacobs did today with basically a depleted offense, Jordan Love was not sharp today.
No.
And Jacobs, if there's one positive thing that Green Bay can take out of today, it's that they have a fucking dude at running back there in Josh Jacobs. So
Yeah.
they can build off of that. Jordan Love is your franchise quarterback. He's that's a good situation. I do think that they have to get a guy, a receiver.
Yes.
Like what they had with Devontae, where a go-to guy that Jordan Love can trust, that Jordan Love can, I don't like to use the word force, but Jordan Love can force the ball to him. I mean, Aaron Rodgers fucking forced it to Devontae a lot, and that was his safety blanket of, go make a fucking play, and I'm throwing it to you. And I think that the Packers need that. They've kind of have went by these last 2 or 3 years with LaFleur play calling, basically scheming a lot of guys open, and I think he's about as good as it gets in the business at doing that. But it makes it a lot easier when you have a guy to do that. So I think that's
so
where
you don't have to be as mad scientist trying to scheme open Romeo Dobbs.
Right. Exactly.
But
100%.
if you've got a guy,
yeah,
then all right. When you do have that guy,
yeah,
all these other guys that have a million reps in your system,
and like
that guy's double covered. So now all these guys can just go nuts.
When Matt first got the job in Green Bay, all the talk was, well, he's got Aaron Rodgers, it's easy. He's got Devontae Adams, it's easy. Well, there's a fucking play caller and a coach in that is scheming that open.
Yeah.
It wasn't fucking working in New York this year, where
Yeah.
Rodgers was making it happen with Devontae all the time. So because it was happening really easy in Green Bay,
Yeah.
and nobody ever wanted to give credit to the coach. It was because Aaron Rodgers is out there and he's the
Right.
quarterback, and Devontae, and it's those two doing bullshit. Coaching matters when it gets to this level. All these athletes and all these players in the NFL are fucking incredible.
Yes.
When it comes down to it, coaching plays a huge role in that, and so Green Bay is in good shape. They are fine. They have to eventually. Matt has proven that he can get his team to the playoffs year in year out. He can be that division is a fucking gauntlet.
No, it is. Yeah,
it is a gauntlet. But now his next step is being able to advance in the playoffs, being able to win these games where you're not necessarily they weren't the favorite today.
No,
but they were in. There was a conversation there that. Like Philadelphia, I don't give a fuck. You can say whatever you want as a Philadelphia fan. You were a little bit worried about this game.
You
be worried about this game. Green Bay has proven to be that team where they can knock anybody out, and
especially with Jalen Hurts missing the prior 2 weeks in concussion protocol, comes back, doesn't have that great of a game.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who did? Saquon.
Mm-hmm.
That dude in 2K's Philadelphia won this game with A.J. Brown having 10 yards on 1 catch.
Mm-hmm.
The leading receiver on the Eagles was Devontae Smith with 4 catches, 55 yards. And Dallas Goedert had probably the best touchdown run of the weekend in the NFL by face pushing a grown-ass man, not once, but twice while running, and finally just pushes him to the ground. It was almost like Derrick Henry-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite, But can you imagine the feeling of just you're a grown ass man and someone pushes your face not once but twice while running and pushes you to the ground?
Yeah, no. Well, it was a couple years ago when it wasn't at Earl Thomas, and he basically turned him into his lead blocker when
Yeah.
he was
Yep.
got him all turned around. I mean, you're talking about one of the in his prime, one of the best safeties that's in the game, part of the Legion of Boom.
Grown ass man. Grown ass man. Well, 2Ks looks like we're just about ready to head into halftime of Commanders Bucks, tied at 10. So let's give the folks some picks. No, just singular pick. Vikings Rams. Minnesota, as of right now on ESPN Bet, is a 2.5-point favorite. Over under set at 47.5. Who you got? What's your take on it?
I'm going with the Vikings here. I think the Lions kind of woke them up a little bit. I think there was a little bit too much celebration with the Vikings after they beat the Packers in the second to last week. I thought that they, I don't know. I don't want to use the word that they were like they just thought they had it in the bag or that they were but I just thought that they kind of looked ahead at that Lions game. Like the Lions were really, really banged up. They're giving up a lot of points to everybody. Sam Darnold is like MVP caliber quarterback, and not to take anything away from because Darnold's been awesome.
Yeah.
But I thought the way that the Lions just kind of kicked him in the teeth in that game, and Vikings were not even able to get get in the end zone. They settled for field goals and they missed field goals and they were really bad. So I think the Vikings turn it around. I think Darnold's going to look sharper. Justin Jefferson is. I expect him to have a big night. And as far as for the Rams, they kind of are like the team that also kind of is just limping into this playoff where Stafford has not looked sharp in the last month of the season. Offenses really went stale if it wasn't for Kyron Williams and doing what he's been doing.
Thanks Cooper Kupp for just basically dying the last 4 fucking weeks of fantasy.
Puka, on the other hand, has been awesome.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the key is can you contain Puka? I mean, you're probably going to give up 80, 90, 100 yards receiving to him. It's going to be holding the Rams out of holding them out of the end zone, forcing them to settle for field goals. But this to me, it could be a really, really good game too. I think you have 2 of the best head coaches in the NFL. You have 2 brilliant play callers. So
2 very good friends too.
Yeah. But I mean, I could go on and on about how good of a head coach I think O'Connell is. Like, to do what he's done with the quarterbacks that he's had, quarterbacks that teams that franchises have just given up on, and to turn them around, whatever the Minnesota decides to do with Darnold, whether they re-sign him and they move, or whether they move on from him and go to McCarthy next season. The one thing that you can say that O'Connell did was he made Darnold a shit ton of fucking money.
Yes. So you're taking Minnesota and you're going over or under 47.5?
47.5. I think I'm going under that.
I'm taking Vikings and smashing the over.
Going over with it. I think the Rams, Stafford just hasn't been very sharp, so I think the Rams are going to lean on Kyron and try to run the ball, kind of do, the Lions showed that you can run the ball a little bit on the Vikings. The Vikings are going to, the way that they've played all season long, they're blitzing they're blitzing like hell, and they're going to try to get to Stafford because Stafford's not very mobile.
Nope.
And they can get to him and force a lot of sacks. But to me, it's going to come down to, can the Vikings make plays downfield? Can their receivers make plays? Jefferson and Addison. And with the Rams, it's try to slow things down, control the ball, get your running game going, and try to keep that really, really good receiving core off of the field as much as you can.
And I mean, for whatever reason, if Stafford gets right and gets hot, I mean, he has the receivers to go up against this Vikings defense. I think 2.5 is a very good point spread right now, because this could honestly be a field goal game. This could. I'm not saying it's going to be a track meet by any means, but if you're telling me that both teams are going to score 25, I'll take that. I'll take that. That's why I'm leaning over, and I think Jefferson has 160 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I think it's that kind of game. I think it's that kind of
Very
game.
well could happen.
Well, 2Ks, is there anything else? I mean, you haven't been here for like 2.5 months. So
I'm looking forward to the second half tonight of this Buccaneers Commanders
yes.
game. Whatever happens tonight, because I think this game could really go either way. And so I don't if it is the Buccaneers' last game of the season, and this is I personally Detroit, I want to play the Commanders more than I want to play the Vikings or the Rams, or I want the Commanders to win this game. So that I just like that matchup. But if the Buccaneers lose, and I'm going to be kind of upset just because this season alone, like I fucking love watching Baker Mayfield.
He's awesome.
That dude is a fucking warrior. They're down. They were just down in halftime, 10-3. Got the ball back with under 2 minutes to go. And Baker Mayfield uses his feet, picks up 20-some yards, gets him down in there, throws a touchdown pass to Mike Evans to end the half. The dude is just a fucking warrior. He's a winner. I have to be honest with you, I didn't really care for him when he was at Oklahoma. And then when he got drafted, I didn't really think he was ever going to pan out to be, big time quarterback. It just undersized, just didn't really have the makeup of a great NFL quarterback. Goes to Cleveland, that's where you fucking go to die if you're a quarterback. I mean, that situation.
Yeah, he won a
terrible.
playoff game in Cleveland.
But won a playoff game.
Yeah.
Then basically loses his job, has nowhere to go, ends up with the Rams, plays with the Rams for a game, plays so fucking well, even after not even really practicing with them.
No.
Picks up a contract to go play.
Signed on a Thursday.
Plays great football with Tampa. Earns himself a fucking contract. Kind of the Sam Darnold situation.
Yeah.
People have just given up on him. And earns a contract in Tampa. And then to do like, you have, whether you like him or not, you gotta fucking respect him. And yeah. I've come to the spot where I don't only just respect him, but he's
must-watch TV.
He's turned into one of my favorite players in the league just because the way that he if you're his teammate, like most quarterbacks are, prima donnas. They don't want to be touched, and whatever. They sit down on the bench by themselves and not really chatting it up with everybody. Every fucking one of his teammates is ready to rock and go with him because he's going to be the first one in the middle of a fucking scuffle where everybody else is getting out of it. And he's going to be the first one in there fucking talking his shit, throwing bows, doing whatever he's got to do. Last week, he rushed the ball and ended up mowing over the guy tackling him and then did the fucking step over.
Yeah.
Did step over on him. And it was just like, holy this dude is a fucking warrior.
Didn't he make a short stop in Carolina?
Yeah.
And when he was benched in Carolina, he was still headbutting guys coming off the field when he wasn't wearing a helmet, and they were.
Yep. No,
dude's a dog.
Yeah.
Dude is an absolute dog. And you talk about just right time, right fit, right everything.
Yep.
Brady retires. They sign him. Usually when you're the guy after the guy, it doesn't pan out. Ask every quarterback in Miami that's tried to play after Marino. They've all been terrible. So to have, that added on top of everyone hates me. I've been doubted this whole time since pretty much since I left Cleveland. I was even doubted when I was in Cleveland. They were believing OBJ and his dad over me. And how I was such a prick and just wouldn't throw in the ball because I didn't like him and all this other shit that came out. Now, hindsight, I bet you he is so happy to be out of Cleveland because he's actually playing meaningful football for an ownership that actually cares and isn't a dumpster fire. And so, yeah, he is. And thank you, Baker. I told you this years ago. Stop doing so many fucking commercials. You made your money. You did your thing. But we were all tired of that. When you were, quote unquote, living in the Brown Stadium for, was it State Farm or whatever the hell he was? Yeah. Those were dumb. So now that you're not on, or at least here in Michigan, you're not on national television with these stupid ads. You're playing like this. We can be friends now. Like I said, you are must watch TV, and I love it.
It's 10-10 at halftime, and this game is gonna, I think, probably go all the way down to the end of the fourth quarter. It's gonna be close all the way. And to me, you're gonna definitely see Jaden Daniels start to use his feet more in the second half, because that's what's got him to this point. Him being that. But you're gonna watch Baker Mayfield throw his body everywhere, and this Buccaneers team, no matter who they play, where they play, whenever it is, Mayfield is going to lay everything on the line,
Oh, yeah.
and he is going to do everything in his willpower. And if that means breaking bones in his body, he is going to do whatever it is to win this game. And as a sports fan, it's probably, if you're the coach, or if you're the one that's paying, right, signing the name on the paychecks for Baker,
You
you
don't
probably
like
don't want that. But as a fan, as a teammate, anything around like that, he's a dude.
Yep. And for all you degenerate gamblers, from here on out, if the Bucks do win, smash the over on Baker Mayfield's rushing yards.
Yes.
Easiest money in football.
Yep.
Him and Josh Allen, smash that, smash that.
Yep.
Well, 2K Crew, we'll get you out of here on this. Everyone have a great week. Next week, we'll be previewing the national title game, so don't miss out on that, as well as recapping the divisional round for the NFL. 2Ks, it's been nice having you back in the saddle. It's always nice to have a conversation instead of me just rambling on for an hour. But yeah, it's nice to have you back. We'll have you back next week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.